Paris, and she never came back. That flight exploded and all 230 people were killed. In the years that followed, I turned to lyric writing in order to try to vent my feelings, and eventually I went to grad school and they taught me how to write the prose. The result is this memoir, and this is an excerpt from that memoir. I brought with me, nobody's going to give me an award for singing, so the lyrical portions that are still in it, my musician Cleveland Brown will assist me with that part. On the 20th floor. I woke up each morning in an empty bed that my late fiancée Suzanne had picked out, and I had picked out together. I returned to work for TWA, the same airline where she'd spent her final moments. Moving from real-world disaster at TWA Flight 800 is not so easily accomplished. If the human brain uses wrinkles to store information, mine had carved trenches to store seemingly endless accident and investigation updates about the aircraft wreckage that was delivered by gravity in so many pieces from the sky through the ocean surface to its depths, where all 230 victims, including Suzanne, had been claimed. I looked at myself wearing my uniform in the mirror, 3 gold stripes on each shoulder, wings pinned to my chest, and a logoed necktie. Who was I anymore, if not an airline pilot? Could I ever wear these ornaments again? I was still a Boeing 767 International co-pilot, and I was on perpetual autopilot at my airline nose. While shaking off a 6-hour transatlantic flight, a transatlantic time zone change, and trying to make sense of the world without Suzanne in it, TWA's Director of Special Health Services, Johanna O'Flaherty, greeted me with her traditional big hug when I returned to JFK from a European trip. That was the warm-up for her true purpose. She's a woman with both grace and charm, but I could see a mission focus in her eyes. After pleasantries and small talk, she introduced me to a counselor named Nancy, a company-sponsored psychologist. Nancy, another trauma specialist, had volunteered to work with TWA's many crushed souls after so many of our airline's co-workers and our family had been lost on that single wide-body flight. This is the side of the airline that most people never see. The human side, behind the press uniforms and aviator sunglasses, where there is no printed emergency checklist to calm overwhelming emotions, no flight simulator to practice coping skills, and no technical manual on grief that can be studied and mastered. I was stranded in a land of despondency, more foreign than any continent I'd ever visited. I had no maps in my flight kit to guide my feelings. Instead, I was offered a guide in the form of a petite woman with short dark hair who worked at the United Nations and also had a private practice. Johanna scheduled me to see Nancy every other week for a year. I said no, of course. First, but Johanna assured me, she charmed me actually, with her soft, compassionate touch and limiting Irish accent, that this is entirely off the record, at the company's expense, and I could quit at any time. Stoic and stubborn as ever, I tried to resist, but Johanna's hypnotic gaze tethered me. I had to swallow my pride in order to allow her words to sink in, and then accept Nancy as my counselor. TWA, via Johanna, wanted to be sure I had someone who wasn't also grieving on my personal team mark, hence the outside consultant. For privacy, I was to see Nancy at a private practice instead of the airline's special health services facility. Nancy's office was in a Manhattan high-rise. It wasn't actually hers, it was a temporary rental. Finding an unrelated name and apartment number on the lobby directory and then waiting to be buzzed in after I dialed it up made our mid-city meetings feel clandestine.
She's waiting for me. She opens up the door for my therapy. On the 20th floor, office of psychology. My counselor with the grief specialty.
Psychologists must all be huggers. That was Nancy's greeting too. The 20-story view was typical for Manhattan. I could see across the street into another building. I didn't know what to expect from a psychologist. psychologist. There was no clinical feel to the setting. There were no medications on display, no diplomas on the wall. In fact, the office was very clearly borrowed, devoid of all things personal. The office could have hosted a lawyer, a real estate agent, or just about anybody when Nancy was accusing.
So she begins with the big hug hello. She's never the first, it's always me who lets go. She opens our session with how do I feel? My eyes are open, nothing feels real.
It wasn't like you see in the movies. I didn't lie on a couch. I assumed correctly that she'd been briefed on my situation, which I imagine was boiled down to one line in her notes. Pilot's fiancé killed in this airline's jumbo jet. This was my time that my airline and Nancy had set aside. We talked face to face, we didn't talk about childhood ad nauseum. Although there is the death of my baby brother, Daniel, buried back in the early years, abstract and distant, less literally recalled. In contrast, I wore Suzanne's death as unabashedly as putting my underwear over my uniform. And still, it's surprising when psychology professionals notice.
I get through the day, from sun to sunset, you know, repetitive haze, through eyes that stay wet. And so she offers to listen, and she nods once or twice. And only when the time is up, she offers advice. There are no easy answers. There's no quick way to heal. There isn't a shortcut through all the pain that I feel. So she walks me to the door, and she hugs me once more, until the elevator opens on the second 20th floor. Sorry about that.
Floor, she's waiting for me. She opens the door for my therapy. On the 20th floor, Office of Psychology, my counselor with a grief specialty. The session begins with a big hug hello. She's never the first, it's me that lets go. She starts our session with how I feel. My eyes are open, but nothing feels real.